Iranians are fleeing their capital Tehran after an angry Donald Trump told them to evacuate ahead of a suspected attack. Donald Trump abruptly left the G7 meeting with world leaders, prompting a bust-up with French President Emmanuel Macron. Macron had said Trump was off to negotiate a ceasefire between Israel and Iran.
Il y avait des discussions qui étaient en cours, ce qui est une bonne chose. Et donc si les États-Unis d'Amérique peuvent obtenir un cessez-le-feu, c'est une très bonne chose. Et la France le soutiendra et nous le souhaitons. Ensuite, je dis, il est absolument essentiel que toutes les frappes de part et d'autre qui se font contre des infrastructures énergétiques, administratives, culturelles et encore plus contre la population civile cessent. Rien ne les justifie, rien. Et elles sont, elles, absolument intolérables. Et ensuite, dès que le cessez-le-feu sera obtenu, et je pense que les annonces qui ont été faites par le président Trump sont tout à fait positives et le rôle que les États-Unis d'Amérique auront à jouer est clé, les Français, à leur côté, les Britanniques et les Allemands sont disponibles pour reprendre des discussions sérieuses. Discussions que nous n'avons jamais cessées.
Which led Trump to lay into him. On Truth Social, he said the French president was publicity seeking, and he always gets it wrong, warning he had something much bigger than a ceasefire planned. He said when it comes to Iran, the gloves are off.
You just posted right before we took off that you're not leaving because of a ceasefire. Why are you? Can you elaborate?
We're looking at better than a ceasefire. We're not looking for a ceasefire. I didn't say I was looking for a ceasefire. That was Emmanuel, nice guy, but he doesn't get it right too often. But we're not looking. We're looking for better than a ceasefire. Well, remember, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. It's very simple. You don't have to go too deep into it. They just can't have a nuclear weapon.
What was the thinking on the call for Tehran to evacuate? Is there a threat or is there incoming? What was the thinking on the full evacuation?
I want people to be safe. And that's always possible. A thing like that could happen. I just want people to be safe.
Is there any new concern about U.S. troops or assets in the region at all today?
Great people, they know how to protect themselves.
And when you say better, what?
Oh, we'll come down so hard if they do anything to our people. We'll come down so hard, then the gloves are off so beautifully. Now, I think they know not to touch our troops.
Are you sending the vice?
Yeah, bring our troops. Ready?
When you say
Do you plan to send the vice president and Steve Witkoff? There's reports that you want to send the vice president and Steve Witkoff to meet with the Iranians and have discussions. Is that something you're considering?
Not sure yet. I may. Depends on what happens when I get back.
What specifically is better than a ceasefire? What are you looking for here?
An end. A real end, not a ceasefire. An end.
So something that would be permanent.
Yeah. Or giving up entirely. Is that okay too?
Are you close there? Is that possible in the next 24 hours?
Certainly possible. Complete give up. That's possible, yeah.
Trump is closely allied with Israeli PM Benjamin Netanyahu, and with Trump's refusal to countenance a ceasefire, arguing he wants a complete end to the Iranian nuclear program, he seems to be aligned in approach. Netanyahu called for full regime change in the country, saying killing the supreme leader of Iran would bring peace.
Well, look, we had the peace talks. We gave it a chance. We've, clenched our teeth. We did everything we could to enable President Trump to negotiate the desired result, and that would have been preferable for us and I think for everyone. But we saw in the course of the negotiations, while they were negotiating with the United States, the supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Khamenei, tweeted almost every day, "Death to Israel." The talks were merely a facade.
So are you going to target the supreme leader?
Look, we're doing what we need to do. I'm not going to get into the details.
But U.S. officials tell us that the president flatly rejected a plan, an opportunity that the Israelis had to take out the supreme leader. Do you understand his concern? My understanding is his concern is that this would escalate the conflict beyond where it is already.
It's not going to escalate the conflict. It's going to end the conflict.
Israel stepped up its attacks on the Islamist regime overnight, striking state TV.
آنچه که ملاحظه کردید، صدایی که شنیدید، فضای غبارآلوده استادیوم
European leaders have largely called for a ceasefire, opening up a huge disagreement with Israel and Donald Trump. The leaders had largely been hoping the G7 would address the trade war, Trump's threats to Canada's sovereignty, and the Ukraine war, but it was overshadowed by Trump's focus on Iran. The president did, however, get round to signing a new trade deal with the UK, but had Starmer scrambling around on his hands and knees when Trump dropped the document on the floor. Something Bev Turner called a metaphor.
A very important document.
Little windy out here. Give me that.
Now, of course, President Trump and Sir Keir Starmer signed a new US-UK trade deal at the summit, and then unfortunately Donald Trump opened the folder and all the papers fell on the floor, and Keir Starmer was on his hands and knees scrabbling around to pick them up, and the metaphor is strong.
Yeah, someone was saying, he's becoming Biden-esque. I don't think it's the President of the United States' job to staple papers in a file. I think somebody slightly lower down the food chain needs to take responsibility. Now, what we need to know is why, or if there are any guidance as to why he has left G7 early. Let's speak to our political correspondent, Catherine Forster. Catherine, there's rampant speculation. Is Iran going to sign some form of peace deal? Is they going to do some deal on nuclear power? Or is he going to grant some form of huge bomb to Israel to take the war even deeper into Iran? What do you hear? What are they telling you in Whitehall?
We simply do not know. That is the bottom line. It's quite extraordinary. He went last night. He's accused Emmanuel Macron of always getting it wrong, because Emmanuel Macron suggested that it was to arrange a ceasefire between Israel and Iran. Donald Trump is keeping his cards very close to his chest, but it is clear that they are supporting Israel. And I'm just looking here. He's having a meeting of the National Security Council back in Washington, and he has said on Air Force One about Iran ultimately getting nuclear weapons. He said, I think they were very close to having them. That is not the general consensus, but he says, a deal to be done. But at the same time, he's issuing warnings to people in Tehran, telling them to evacuate. So frankly, it is clear as mud. But now the G7 back in Canada is the G6. What do they do? Their powers are very, very limited without Donald Trump. And
Trump said he signed the deal, giving the UK the most preferential access to the US market because he likes us, snubbing the EU, Canada and Japan in the process.
The UK is very well protected. You know why? Because I like them. That's why. That's their ultimate protection. Thank you very much. The Prime Minister's done a great job. I want to just tell that to the people of the United Kingdom. He's done a very, very good job. You know, he's done what other people, they've been talking about this deal for 6 years, right? 6 years. And he's done what they haven't been able to do. So he's done really a very good job.
Donald Trump will meet with the National Security Council when he lands in Washington, and the world awaits to see what he does next. Nicholas Dunning, GB News.